It's story time with Norman again. And this time I want to tell you about one of the most amazing frauds that I've heard about. It's a situation that came to my attention when I was the fairly recently appointed head of internal audit at the Tosco Corporation, which is an oil company that at the time was based in Northern California, outside San Francisco. And I was talking to members of management, it might have been finance, when the receptionist came over to tell me that there was a call for me that I really should take. And I said, what is this? And he said, it's from the American Bar Association. Okay, well, the American Bar Association I know is what pretty much every attorney, every lawyer in America belongs to. I said, what do they want to talk to me about? So went back to my office and the call was put through, and this gentleman repeated that he was from the American Bar Association, the local chapter, organization, whatever they call themselves, from the Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area. And he said that he needed to tell me that he had received a complaint about one of his members from an employee of Tosco. So I was thinking, well, why do I need to be worried about that as the head of internal audit? And so I asked him to explain a little bit more. And he said that this employee of mine, or the company's, had made a complaint about the attorney. And what he had said is that he had a contract, he had an agreement with this attorney, where the attorney was going to set up a company that would then send invoices over to Tosco for services that had not been delivered, had not been performed, basically fictitious services from a fictitious company. Well, it's a real company, but it's basically only set up there, the company's only purpose was to send fictitious invoices to Tosco. And this individual, whose name he gave me, would arrange to have them paid. And his complaint was that, contrary to the agreement, this lawyer was keeping all the money and not sharing it with the Tosco employee. So I said, well, thank you for letting me know. This is rather interesting. And I went and talked to the corporate controller, lovely lady called Donna Philpott. This is the Tosco Refining Company controller. And said, do you know this person? And she said, yes. And he is an employee in the accounts payable department. What about him? So I swore her to total secrecy. I said, we need to investigate this. It's not proven. What's going on, we don't know. But this is the allegation that I've received. And you can't tell anybody, but I need you to help me investigate what is happening or has happened. So I shared the story. And then she went and she found this particular company and the invoices that had been paid. And there was a few tens of thousands, maybe $30,000 that had been paid for services. And she didn't know what they were, but they had been approved by this individual in accounts payable. Now, somehow, I mean, this same person didn't have the ability to set up a vendor as well. Somehow that had just gone through in the noise, basically, of running accounts payable. The invoice had been approved and the vendor had been set up. So we looked into this. And Donna said, well, maybe this person also has access to our organization up in Seattle. Oh, okay. So I called up the controller in Seattle, Tim. I said, Tim, do you know anything about this company? I said, oh yes, I've heard they're sending fraudulent invoices to you down there in Concord, Northern California. Let me have a look and see whether we've got anything. And he came back, he just put me on hold while he had a look. And he said, we don't have any invoices from that company, but we have invoices from another company at the same address for about $12,000. Anyway, we had to write, all of that had been paid, so it wasn't a matter of writing it off, except writing off the experience of this fraud, and clearly this individual was terminated fairly quickly, and the company then had to decide whether to prosecute or not. But that's a different story entirely. I can tell you that normally the law enforcement and the criminal justice system never seems to prosecute for the full amount of what's been stolen. But that's a different issue. The issue here was that one individual had the ability, and a somewhat strange individual who would make a complaint and therefore reporting himself basically as having committed fraud or been involved in fraud. But he didn't have both capabilities. But setting up a vendor is a fairly routine thing, and people don't question it very much. Anyway, it's a fairly small fraud in the scheme of things. This was a $2 billion company, so $30,000 or $40,000, $50,000 was a painful experience and lesson to be learnt that this kind of fraud can happen. But certainly, I think the biggest issue was, why do we hire this individual who is so stupid to call the Bar Association and make a complaint about his part in fraud? Anyway, I hope you enjoy that, and come back. There may be more of these videos in Storytime with Norman in the future.